Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Monday, to a new day, to a new show. I'm John Adarola. Today's a Monday. It is Fantastic Monday because Francesca Fiorentini will be coming up in just a little bit. We're going to be going live in a little bit less than 40 minutes. We got a packed old show where we're going to be giving you updates about the situation in Afghanistan, a ton on the approval of the Pfizer COVID vaccine, as well as some other medicines that you might choose to take for COVID. And we got a whole bunch of other stuff besides. So it's going to be awesome. Someone in the chat said, what's taking so long? It took a normal time. I got to give you a couple minutes. So we all gather up, you know? It's like I put out the bat signal, and the bats come. You're a bat. Anyway, hey, everybody. I'm kind of in a good mood for the beginning of this week. Hasn't been true recently. But the news, while, you know, it's American political news, it could be worse. It has been worse. It will be worse. I finalized the epilogue for my novel, and so now I wrote another scene to go earlier and then realized after finishing that it was totally unnecessary. So I think I'm ready to start the second draft, so I'm feeling good. I hope that you've been having some good developments in your life. No, Chris, unfortunately, it's not really a good news report. The news still sucks, but I am greeting it with, you know, an okay mood. Got my coffee. It's caffeinated. Anyway, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that would be great. We got a lot to talk about through the course of this, so why don't we launch into it? And so I ask you, how do we start the pre-show most days? Anyone know? Anyone remember the particular genre of news that tends to start this thing? Yeah, well, we got a little bit of that for you. So let's see. No trashy. No trashy for a little bit. Oh, I see. We start the show late. Okay, I see. By begging for likes. Well, that is true, yes. That is true. Okay, I see. Okay, I was in a good mood, now I'm in a bad mood of being owned by the audience. But anyway, yes. So, unfortunately, 02 is correct. Top 10 John Oliver. I am eventually going to do that. Oh, can I say John Oliver's last episode of the season was on Afghanistan? It was good. I don't think it was necessarily as... It doesn't stand out in the same way that a lot of his episodes do, in that much of what he was saying was just a better version of what a lot of people, including the show, have been saying. But, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about this. Well, a South Carolina GOP leader who called face masks an illusion has died from COVID. This is Presley Stutz, chair of the Greenville Tea Party, been a vocal skeptic of coronavirus-related guidance. He said you have a 99.999% chance of not dying from the Wuhan virus. So I will never understand that sort of throwaway line. Like, it would be one thing if, well, we know that that's true. The pandemic's new. No one's died from it yet. Should we worry or not? But when over 600,000 people have died, the fuck is the point of a statistic like that? Okay, cool. It still killed 600,000 people. And of course, it's not actually true. He says, let's see, when there was some news about some doctors and nurses not getting vaccines, he said, mandates and coercions do not work. We've been lied to. Well, look, so you know how this goes. Eventually got COVID, was admitted to the hospital in early August, early this month. Hey, made money into building. Thank you. I'm going to talk about the top 10 list in just a second, which you have now access to. It says, COVID is nothing to fool with, and in as much as possible, it is up to you to take the best precautions for you and your family to avoid getting it. 2 weeks later, so this is not long ago, he called the virus hell on earth. And if you are a conservative that is watching this, I want you to listen to this quote. When you have to take every single ounce just to get your next breath, you know you're in the battle for your life. Wrote this on Facebook. In all caps says, I implore you, please pray that God moves mightily in my body. Isolated. Don't know how much longer I can endure without your prayers. Seriously. A couple days later, put a post, wake up. He promised to wake up from this short rest and be back at the game soon. He did not. He died. Face masks were not an illusion. Didn't matter the 99 point whatever. He died. And look, took it seriously at the end. That's one of the flavors that this story tends to come in. But was so desperate to have someone take him out of the horrible situation he found himself in, suffering in a way that I cannot imagine. There is still time. Like, we've been through so many cycles of this. There is still time. Some conservatives will read that story and say, doesn't matter. And they will end up in the exact same position. They will be saying a very similar thing. He's not the only one. You probably saw throughout the weekend, there was this story of the radio host Phil Valentine. This is a right-wing radio host. And look, this story came up after I posted on Twitter, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago. Like, are there going to be any right-wing radio personalities left after this? They seem to be really catching it. You know, they always assert that, like, these sorts of mass casualty events are like God being pissed at gay people or something like that. But this one, it really does seem to be hitting right-wing radio people really hard. Why is that? Well, anyway, he's a Nashville radio host. Let's see. He said the chance of contracting the virus and dying were way less than 1%. Again, that doesn't help if you're one of those people. Okay, let's see. He did recommend in December that people with underlying health conditions should get the vaccine, so that already makes him more responsible than virtually every other one of them. He also claimed that people who aren't high risk are probably safer not getting it. He's been dismissive of other vaccines as well. Eventually was hospitalized in very serious condition. He spent like 6 weeks in the hospital, it looks like. Let's see, we have a few... Johnson & Johnson pulled sunscreens over cancer-causing chemicals. That was a little bit ago. He said, but I'm sure their vaccine is perfectly safe. Don't worry about it. And it's funny, you know? It's a separate thing, but... Let's see. Back on July 11th said, yes, the rumors are true. I have COVID. Unfortunately for the haters out there, it looks like I'm going to make it. Interesting experience. I'll have to fill you in when I come back on the air. I'm hoping that will be tomorrow, but I may take a day off just as a precaution. It'll be a game time decision. Let's see. 3 days later, COVID infected posted a meme that said, I got my COVID-19 vaccine, but he crossed out vaccine. It said, doing my patriotic duty for natural herd immunity. Again, as I have said many times, and then a lot of other memes, tons of other stuff. I will say, as I always say, I understand that many of the people who unfortunately don't care about this are religious and believe that there is another life that you can go on to after you die. That would be great if that were true. I don't know everything, maybe it is. But the only one that we know about is this one. Like, we know that we have this life. And people are throwing it away. Suffering for weeks in hospitals on ventilators, struggling, choking, trying to draw breath before dying. And it didn't have to happen. If he had taken the vaccine, he would probably still be alive. It would be far less likely that he would have died. Far less likely that he would have been in the hospital in the first place. He was 61 years old. He could have lived for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, maybe. This is an option that is open to us. There are 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds dying of this. There are younger people too. I know that we've talked about some of like the 8th graders and things like that have died. It's like you have family, you have friends, you have years of experience open to you. Just fucking take the jab. That's it. It takes so little time. A little bit of arm soreness. I've never had COVID, I don't think. I'm pretty sure this is worse. We'll return to that point actually in a second, but yeah. How many Republican Party officials, how many in right-wing media have to die? And look, I guess I have to update at least one of the things I was saying. I'd said earlier many times that they're all lying to you, which they are, but that they're lying in that they have gotten vaccinated. Not some of them. Some of them apparently really meant it. I don't know if that's admirable in some way, but needlessly dying. It's not an inconvenience. It's fucking death. It's final. Why are you fucking around with all that is left to you and potentially endangering your loved ones at the same time? I have never heard of this person before. I probably disagree with literally everything he believes about politics, culture, society, everything. I just don't want them to die, though. And everyone that they agree with doesn't give a fuck if they die. Or certainly won't do anything to stop it from happening. And so it's these two guys tragically dying today. Tomorrow it'll be someone else. And on and on and on. Needlessly. And for every one of them, there will be 500, 700, 1,500 other people that we won't hear their particular stories about, but they're out there, and they've lost just as much. Their families have lost just as much. Keith Dental says, in the good news department, we are less than 20 days away from my 12,000-watt solar installation. That sounds awesome. That is all. I should look into that at some point. It does sound expensive. I don't suppose you could give us some idea about how expensive. It sounds expensive. I'm sure long-term saves money, but it sounds expensive. But good. May Monday in the Building says, happy Monday, John. I started school today. I'm excited. I'm taking creative writing and playwriting, screenwriting. Should be a good semester. I am legitimately jealous of you, and that sounds awesome. I should really do that. I'm very eager to start the second draft of my story, and I'm also going to be working on some short stories. And I will say at some point, for a long time, as I've been doing this writing, I've been thinking about, I'm a big fan of like sort of public accountability, inspiring you to, follow through on your things. So I've thought previously about, I've been very hesitant to do any sort of like politics centered like Patreon or anything like that for a number of different reasons. I'm not ruling it out, but I've been hesitant to. But I have thought about trying to set up something like that to inspire me to be more productive in the creative stuff. Obviously, there would be far, far fewer people remotely interested in that, but it might help me to be more inspired. But anyway, doing a class like you're doing is a great way to do that, because you have to produce, I'm assuming. MTG is 100% vaccinated. I don't know. I would have thought that, but some of them are, and she does have that look in her eye. OnlyFans. That's a possibility. Well, I guess, I mean, no, but see, here's the thing. If OnlyFans is, like, still going to be around, I guess I could, but no, I don't want to. If OnlyFans kicks off all the sex workers, I don't want to support them after that bullshit. Anyway, support them being OnlyFans. I mean, MTG used counterspell on the virus. I know what you just did there. Trevor Watson says, I will buy your book. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I'm not selling anything right now, by the way. Mississippi, by the way, is ordering coronavirus-infected individuals to isolate at home or face up to 5 years in prison. There was previously a consequence. They've made it stronger. So bigger fines, years in prison. So this is really a thing where the headline doesn't really tell the story. So the story is you could face up to 5 years in prison if you know that you have COVID and you don't isolate. The story, though, is that you have to threaten people with years in prison or they won't fucking stay to themselves when they have a deadly virus. Again, not surprising with all that we know, but anyway. By the way, yes, Shop2IT, but today on the show, I'm going to be wearing a t-shirt that is not available on Shop2IT, but I am a big fan of it. You'll be seeing it in just a little bit. It's going to be a little surprise. Anyway, so here is where I make it about me. Understand, one of my rules of all this is I am never more frustrated by political news media than when commentators about the news make it about themselves, because the news isn't fucking about us. We're literally the least important part of this, and I hate how much drama and all this bullshit focuses around the individuals that are just helping you to get through all the mess, and here's some important things you need to know about. That's anyway, but I'm going to briefly. Really fast. Ray Turner says, I'm currently writing a series of short stories in the Cthulhu mythos setting and slowly working on a novel set more in the 90s Delta Green one. That's awesome. I haven't really read much in Delta Green, but I love the idea of the setting. I'm thinking, there's a short story concept I have for my world that's inspired a little bit by the Cthulhu mythos. Only John's. That's funny. Hey, Allegra. So I just saw your comment. Thank you. So Allegra, I know that you said that you mailed us questions. I don't know where they are. I don't see them in my mail. The team does it. So, but if you could post them in that thread, that would be very helpful. I look forward to seeing what they are. Kenny, you're ridiculous. Anyway, okay, so here's where I make it briefly about myself. Anyway, and not really. The overall news is that there's a new report from, let's see, the San Jose Mercury News. Death records of an unknown respiratory virus contributed to fatalities in California, Alabama, Georgia, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin in January 2020. Oh, thank you, Allegra. So really early on, that is earlier than we thought, the first reported case was said to be just outside of Seattle. A man flew to the state from China while ill. He survived the virus, anyway. So they have a half dozen death certificates from all these different states. Previously, the first death said to have been from COVID was Patricia Dowd of San Jose on February 6, 2020, but her infection could never be traced back to anything. So here's the thing. It was here earlier than we've generally said. It was killing people earlier than we generally thought. So this is where I make it about myself. My hair's looking fuzzy. Thank you. I know I'm like all over the place. I'm thinking about growing my beard. I don't know. I'm feeling nostalgic for when I was in the Arctic. Google keeps sending me photos from that time. But anyway, many of you probably were not watching the show in early January 2020. But I got very sick. I don't know if you remember, but I had a lot of difficulty breathing. I had wheezing for months after that, but that might have just been being out of shape. I was coughing nonstop for a couple of weeks. Now, it almost certainly was nothing. It was probably just flu or something. But now I wonder, because it was in California. Thank you to those of you who remember. So I kind of want to get the antibody test. Now, this would, if I tested positive for the antibodies, this would prove that was when I had it, even though I've had no symptoms in the meantime. It could have been asymptomatic. But I'm kind of curious. I wonder, though, if they would have continued in the system for a year and a half. But anyway, I don't think I've lost my taste buds. I don't know. I might get the antibody test. But anyway, it was here a lot earlier. My wife, by the way, in late December was very sick. Right before I was, oddly enough. Forbesilla says, my mom was really sick December 2019, but there's no way it was COVID because I live with my mom and I've had the antibody test. Maybe you just have like a killer system, like weed it out. Does coffee still taste like coffee? I think so. Sounds a little sus. Yeah, it might be too late to ever know, but I am curious. That was totally random. That was totally random. It had nothing to do with anything. I swear to God. Oh, God. Anyway, by the way, wanted to remind you, there is a new report out from UNICEF. No, I'm totally fine. From UNICEF. So they say that nearly half of all of the children in the world are at extremely high risk of suffering the effects of climate change, which in the end will be an undercount. All children will, but it is going to hit kids hard. And I remind you, I want to point you to this report, which is available. It's the first ever children's climate risk index, for a couple different reasons. One, we had that report, 2 weeks ago. Now, nobody remembers that it even exists, but it matters what they found. It's not going away. And two, I would have normally said, how crazy is it that this thing that is going to devastate the lives and the well-being and literally take the lives of many of our kids, we're just going to allow to happen? Like, isn't that supposed to be the thing that no animal would allow their kids to be victimized in this way? That's what you protect. You have to, or else you wouldn't have lasted this long. But look at the conversations around COVID. And that's more immediate. They can pretend that, the climate change is more abstract or something. It's more in the distance. It's not. Anyway, about 1 billion children live in dozens of developing countries that are facing at least 3 to 4 climate impacts, including drought, food shortages, extreme heat, and disease. And it is going to get worse every single year. And probably not linearly. It's probably going to ramp up quite a bit. And we as a species have, for the most part, decided that that's okay. Maybe Elon Musk will come up with some machine that we launch into, the atmosphere and it cleans everything up. But if not that, then nothing. Yeah, no, I know that some animals do eat their children, but supposedly there are reasons for that as well, in terms of maintaining stable population sizes or something like that. But yes. Well, I think I missed a super chat or two. Salty Chief Dragon says, got back from Korea deployment December 2019, and a bunch of us got real sick and didn't feel like normal flu. Looking back, we're sure it was COVID. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Kitty says, $2 for John's funeral. That's not funny. But thank you. It's nice of you. Okay. So, we have flown past 1,000 likes. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the 3,500 of you who are hanging out with me this morning. That's nice. So, Trump's wall has been torn apart, as well as the bullshit priorities. What did I mean by that? Well, you might have seen this report. So, let's see. Can I bring up this photo? You're going to be able to see this? Oh, okay, I'm going to whip you around. Okay, so here you go. So that is a section of the border wall in Arizona that has been blown apart, torn apart by monsoon rains. So that is kind of funny because the wall's stupid, expensive bullshit, and it got torn down by rain. But here's the thing. For that to happen, obviously the weather is very extreme. Much of the West right now is in the middle of what's called a mega drought. We have to come up with new terms for, how terrible things have become in terms of our climate. But we also then have crazy bursts of rain too. The distribution of moisture in weather systems around the world is getting totally thrown into whack. Areas are drier and areas are wetter. In the same way that areas are hotter and areas are colder. This is not that complicated, but it's just complicated enough that conservatives will never get it. So, the wall gets blown down there. That is funny because fuck the wall, it's stupid. But also, that's funny, Maureen. But also, think about the priorities here. We've spent billions of dollars to set up a bullshit wall to protect us from something that we don't need to be protected from. This fake idea of caravans and all that bullshit. It's getting destroyed by something that we very much do need to be protected from, which is out-of-control climate change. Now, obviously, the scale of the money that would be spent on the two is different. Dealing with climate change, because of how long we've waited and how much damage we've done, is going to be much more expensive than building a wall. But it will have one benefit. It will actually help to protect our lives, to maintain our civilization. Whereas building the stupid wall doesn't do absolutely goddamn anything. And so I love that basically Mother Earth, Gaia, decided to fist right through the wall. I want to see more of that. I want to see the wall set on fire by out of control heat. Or maybe one of those flame-nados that we've seen. I want to see tornadoes knock down the wall. Where it's close to the ocean, I want to see hurricanes blow it the fuck away. No one will learn the lesson, but we can appreciate the sort of metaphoric component of it, at least for ourselves. Anyway, someone said remember the wall in Lost. I've never watched Lost. Should I watch Lost? Anyway. Okay, everybody. Battlefield 2042 is going to turn into a simulation for a future. I hope that's good. I could go for another Battlefield game. Okay, Sophie, I see you. I was just finishing up. Okay, we're way over, but thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate you joining me for the morning. We've got Francesca who's coming up. It's going to be awesome. Then we're going to have a top 10 list. Top 10 time sinks that was submitted by a viewer. So that's going to be fun. This was Zuna2 suggested this top 10 list. And then we're going to have the Tier 3 live Q&A. So if you want to become a Tier 3 member, we're going to be doing it at noon Pacific. It's going to be fun. Hope to talk to you all. I'll see you in just a few.